Welcome to the Dumb Idea Podcast Show with Mike and Alex. We thank you for joining us as we have a couple of beers and a cigar and talk about what's going on in our lives. Grab an adult beverage and a smoke and settle in with us. Please like, subscribe, and comment on each show so we can hear whether you agree or disagree with our take on things. Listen wherever your favorite podcasts are and at www.dumbideapodcast.com. So I got a flyer in the mail the other day, and it was just one of those generic flyers from a real estate agent. And of course they're always like, hey, we want to sell your home. And they put the comparables. So like the last 10 or 15 sales from the surrounding area. And I'm looking at it. I usually just throw it away, right? But I was like, oh, let me see what the house has been selling for. And I think my eyes bugged out of my head. Because this neighborhood right now is selling for a lot of money. Not just ours. I mean, it's basically this whole area. I feel like house prices from even a year ago, same house I think is probably selling for about 40 to 50 grand more than it was. And I'm thinking, and I'm looking at this going, I look at my wife and I'm like, maybe we need to consider selling and taking a lot of this equity. There's a lot of cash here. Right. Not that we'd be like Bill Gates rich, but we'd have a little stronghold on the bank account going. And every time, because I had said it once before, like when I saw house prices go up last year, but she looked at me again. She goes, "You realize we're going to have to pay up to move anywhere, yeah, right? Yeah. Like you're not going to really realize the savings unless you buy a smaller place, a smaller plot of land,
or go way out, Eastern Shore, something like that,
right? Or you got to leave the state.
Yeah,
even the Eastern Shore." I think if you looked at similar houses, I think you're probably about $100 grand less.
Yeah, well, you'd have to look at what would be considered a reasonable commute to D.C. or Baltimore.
I think you got to go down to Easton or up to Centerville.
Yeah,
I don't think you're finding anything at Kent Island.
No,
and you're not finding anything in Stevensville.
No, Queenstown probably not. Maybe if you got out like Denton. Yeah. That way, maybe Delaware.
You could definitely go out in the middle of nowhere, Eastern Shore, like heading out towards like Delaware. Yeah.
And I know people that make that drive, and having done a drive similar to that, and my father did it all when he worked for growing up in Frederick, and he would drive, commute to D.C. or Newington, Virginia, wherever they put his office, because he worked for the federal government. So, seeing that and that toll that it takes on you, no thanks.
Frederick's an interesting proposition, though. And so is Martinsville, West Virginia, because they've got the Camden line for the MARC train there. Mm-hmm. Now, don't get me wrong. I think even from Frederick, I think you're an hour into D.C.
Yeah, and that train kind of runs a weird route. Yeah. It doesn't go straight south. It goes from Frederick to, I think, Brunswick.
Yes.
And then it cuts back south again. It doesn't make a direct shot down 270, which, spending time in Long Island, you think is, from, the Long Island Railroad runs all the way out east.
Right.
And it pretty much runs, there are branches off, but it kind of runs a straight shot. If they were to do something similar here, you'd have a train running up the middle of 270.
Yeah, why they don't have straight lines, I don't understand in this state. Yeah. Like New York, you're right. Metro North going through Connecticut, straight line. Yep. Parallels 95.
Yep.
Long Island Railroad, straight shot, straight line through Long Island.
Yeah.
Around here, it's ridiculous. It's like the twistiest, turniest train. Like there's no way the train can pick up speed because it's got to turn left and right all the damn time.
Right. Yeah, Metro Rail kind of runs straight, but it's, at times they go slow for various reasons. But no, that's Frederick still, like when we moved there, it was far away, but it wasn't very crowded. It was inexpensive. Now it's just as crowded, just as expensive, and still really far away. Yeah. So nothing changed. And I think the Eastern Shore is kind of getting the same way. But getting back to the original, like, you see the home prices, and your wife is right. Like, yeah, you could go and I have a ton of equity in my house. I'm going to spend all of it on the next house unless I left.
Right.
the state, which, or at least the DMV type greater
Right.
Baltimore, Washington area, which at times seems really appealing. But there are certain things that keep you here. And, is it how old the kids are? Job. For me, it's both.
Right.
And we really kind of, my wife, she didn't grow up here. I didn't grow up here either. But, we have good friends and know people everywhere. And so, we have that real sense of community here. So why would I want to go and uproot and move? But when I see what I can get elsewhere, I'm like, it's...
Well, yeah. And for us, it's a little bit of both. So my wife's brother is about maybe 2 hours north in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
My in-law is about an hour north in Frederick. My brother's an hour south. An hour and 15 minutes south in Calvert County. And my mother lives like 3 miles down the road or in Florida. So
right.
Now, if we were to move, my mom's gone. My mom's selling the place here. She's moving to Florida full time.
Mm-hmm.
That's her jam down there.
Yeah, she's got her bug out plan going.
Right. I think she's waiting. She's waiting for me to just say, okay, we're moving, so she can sell her place. But that's a different story altogether. But for us, so we've got family holding us here, and then we've got the other things you talked about. One, community. I am too old to try and get a brand new social circle.
Yeah.
Or trying to break into an existing one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing is worse than trying to be the fifth friend in a group of 4 friends that have been friends for 20 years.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, like, everyone's cool, but still there's kind of that, he's the...
You're still the 5th person.
Yeah, you're the new guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's kind of hard. And, for me, like, my friends are now, 10 years ago, they're all from work or from her job. Now our friends are all from the neighborhood,
right,
or from the pool, or from kids' sports teams,
right,
or kind of a mixture of both. As far as the people, now I'm still friends with all the people I was, work friends with, but we don't hang out a lot because everyone's kind of moved on. We're not bachelors, we're not new guys anymore. So now we're all, they're doing their thing in their similar situation as well. But when we go to social circle now, it's all that sort of thing. Do you want to start over again?
Right.
Now the kids are going to be fine, and you're going to meet
they'll make
friends
friends at school, right, or through the sports teams or wherever. They'll make it. They'll have automatic ways to make friends. Yeah.
But like with the now, like when the kids will be on a different team from all their old friends from the previous team. And you still get a little bit of that, you're the 5th guy,
right,
the 5th family. Like, these are all friends. You maybe know that guy a little bit, but you don't. So they're kind of in there. It's still cliquey stuff. It's nothing different than high school. It's just
right,
how social circles work.
You're hoping that there's someone in that circle that's super welcoming.
Yeah.
To bring the new like someone that understands the situation, brings them in, treats them as if they've been there forever, right?
Right.
Or 2 or 3 of that. You're hoping that circle's like, you know what? Let's help a brother out.
Yeah.
But most times you always get the 1 or 2 people in there that are like, no. This is my group of friends. This is my toy. And you're not going to get to play with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, unfortunately, that's the way it goes. I mean, especially, I think it happens a lot of times with the ladies. The cattiness kind of gets the better of them sometimes. But I digress. I don't know. I definitely think with guys is probably a little bit more casual. I don't think it's probably as like whenever you're going to make friends. If you're going to make friends with 5 new people, it's always will the wife be friends with the other ladies?
Yeah,
not the guy. Because women do this stuff all the time. They're like, "Oh, look, come on, you can come to this party." And you'll hang out with Fred and George, and they're great guys. You're gonna love them. They like baseball too.
Yeah, they like baseball.
Who's the guy that made the joke about that? I forget. Was it Sebastian Maniscalco or something? They basically like he just got thrown into like the group, like the wife was made friends with like 4 other ladies, and she brought like he came to the house and it's like, oh, you're gonna like George, he likes baseball too. It's like, oh no, I've been in this situation, and I think guys realize that's the situation a lot of times. It's like, yeah, we feel you, dude. Come on,
man. Yeah, and that's like, oh, such and such, he's in the same industry you are, or you know him and he knows this other guy and like 3 people removed. Like, oh yeah, I know that. You know that. Yep. Great.
Right. Conversation's done in 3 minutes. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, so you like computers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you're just Hank Hill in the driveway. Like, yup.
I'll be honest with you. I think guys can make a full-fledged friendship out of and yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got a buddy. He says that's right all the time. He goes, that's right.
Right. And he's probably the happiest dog out there.
But and the thing is, I don't, I will not have spoken to my friends in years and would call me out, talk, and like pick up right where we left off, and then I won't talk to them again for a year.
Yep.
But that's one of the things that keeps you like, do you want to uproot and move? And then moving's a pain anyway.
Moving's tough anyway, yeah. But let's say once you get there, though, right? As an adult, as the married couple, you're looking at least 10 months of not having any close friends.
Yeah.
Like no one to do the barbecue with, no one to do the 4th of July with, no one to do like Friendsgiving with.
Yep.
Just the stupid stuff that groups of people that click up, this is what they do to have fun. Right. They make excuses to get together just to shoot the shit.
Yeah.
Away from their kids.
Yep.
To have some fun. Like probably the best times that we probably have are when someone, when Ty does like a fire pit night.
Oh yeah.
We're literally in his backyard drinking some beers.
Yeah. Or Tot Lot happy hour on Fridays.
Right.
Like that Tot Lot happy hour has gotten me through my week at work at times.
Yep.
And when it starts getting too cold for we all bought heaters this year.
Right. We made Tot Lot happy hour. Winter Tot Lot happy hour happened.
Yeah.
I literally went and got a bazooka heater.
Yeah, it's like Sam had a jet engine.
Right.
I think it is a small jet engine.
Yeah.
And melting the snow with the heaters to hang out, but that's like kind of just whatever, let's make this work. But that's the thing, like, and we have friends that have moved out of the neighborhood,
mm-hmm.
and I still talk, still talk and send text messages and this and that, but it's not
the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And I keep threatening to go down there and visit him. And he's like, yeah, come on down. And I'm like, yeah, I'm coming down. And that trip fell through.
So, 3 years later, not one trip has been made.
Remember when we planned we were all going to get in our RV?
We were all going to go.
Drive down. That didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Not once.
It's fun to talk about. But, then do you miss, then you'll be like, you miss that sort of thing. And as much as I hate the taxes here and I disagree with the majority of the politics of the state, and I disagree with so much of what goes on in the region in Maryland. It's like, do I want to it's very easy. Well, then move. I could for what we spend on these houses, going down to North Carolina or South Carolina, I could have a really nice spot and not spend what I'd spend here.
Well, not just that. From the equity in the houses here,
yeah,
you could almost pay cash for the house down there.
Yeah,
like just straight out cash.
Yeah,
I mean, worst case, you're taking out a $50,000 mortgage,
right?
Which would be nothing.
It's like a car payment.
I mean, think about it this way: if your mortgage payment is $2,000 to $2,500, and you can knock that down to $1,000 a month,
mm-hmm.
you could put back $2,000 to $2,500 or $1,000 to $1,500 back in your pocket.
Yeah,
you could literally almost one person wouldn't have to work anymore.
Yeah,
or shoot, that's an extra 12 to 15 grand back in your bank account every year.
Yeah,
that's not chump change.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever you want to. I'm lucky that I can retire pretty young, so. It's something that we've kicked around, because then when you think, and that's why a lot of people move to places like Florida when they retire, because they move down there and their money goes further. So they're on a reduced income. Their money goes a little bit further.
Well, the taxes down there are
Yeah,
cheaper.
yeah.
So it not only like my in-laws did this. They sold their house, took all the equity, bought a house almost outright.
Mm-hmm.
Now they refinanced, which was another story. But they basically bought a house outright in Florida, and instead of having a $10,000 or $15,000 tax bill, their tax bill was $5,000 or $6,000 a year.
Oh yeah.
So you're paying half in taxes every year.
Yeah.
Your house can almost be paid for. If the end game is to be financially stable in your retirement years, so your kids don't have to worry about you, your kids' money can remain your kids' money. They're not taking care of their parents. They're not worried about if their parents are going to have enough money to make it to retirement. The idea of going to a North Carolina, South Carolina, not so much Alabama or Georgia. I mean, some people go to Georgia, I guess, but even Florida.
Yeah.
The idea is appealing, but even nowadays, you could think about, like you said, the Eastern Shore, even taking $100,000 of that equity,
Yeah.
or Southern Pennsylvania. A lot of Marylanders are moving to Southern Pennsylvania, and that Gettysburg, even like the York, that area there.
Well, yeah, I went to college in York and Shrewsbury, which is just over the line. It's like a little Baltimore.
Yep.
And a lot of people it's not a bad commute into Baltimore from, I mean, really, the commute from York to Baltimore isn't bad.
Well, let's look at it a different way, though. With all the COVID stuff that happened, all the people that started telework last year, I was already in a telework situation before that. Not full-time, but really close to full-time teleworking from home. I really didn't have to do much commuting. And so my wife and I had the conversation of, because my wife can get a job anywhere. Mm-hmm. She's got a very in-demand job.
Yeah.
We're not stuck here for her to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
But if I could move, if we could move and I could still keep my job, financially nothing is holding us here anymore.
Right.
And I'm wondering, and this state has a lot of negative things going for it. Traffic being one of them. I remember whenever they used to do the study of traffic, the Washington, D.C., greater Baltimore area was like the 5th worst.
Oh, yeah. It falls behind such places like Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Like just New York. Like the traffic. And the thing is, I mean, New York traffic's terrible, but it has a very robust public transportation system.
Well, not, and the highways are laid out better there.
Yeah.
It's different. I mean, for this area, if people don't want to, and especially as more people are having to go back to work, but if people don't have to go back to work or don't have to commute into work, people are now being allowed to remain in a telework capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Why stay?
Yeah.
If you have nothing else holding you here but a job, but now that job is saying you can go work anywhere,
Do it. Yeah.
why are you staying here?
Yeah, you can do it from the beach. You can do it from wherever you happen to be. And
Shoot.
why not go
buy a townhouse in Ocean City for like $250,000. Well, now you're living near the beach,
mm-hmm.
and you probably bought it cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you got to downsize, or maybe that's not for you. Maybe you want rural living. Maybe you do want to go to North Carolina, because you can go to North Carolina. You can still be near a major airport near Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to Florida and be down around 3 major airports or 4 down there if you wanted to. Like there are some things holding people here. BWI is a hub for Southwest. It's a nice jump off point to the north or south. Yeah. Either way.
And some people still get hooked on like the seasons. I need the seasons. I am getting to the point now. Now, I grew up as a hockey player. I love the cold weather.
Me too.
Won't now. Like, send me to Florida. I don't care if I ever see another snowflake again.
See, I feel like I would go north. I would go to like, I would rather go to like Pennsylvania, like northern Pennsylvania, or I mean, I'm not going to like Erie. I'm not going for the lake effects now. But if I didn't see a summer again, I wouldn't be too upset.
Yeah, see, the older I get, the more I like the hot weather. I mean, go to New Hampshire. I mean, they're pretty.
But then I got to deal with Red Sox fans.
Yeah,
we've talked about that.
Yeah,
it's like if I go to New Jersey, I got to deal with Yankee and Giant fans,
or Eagle fans if you're in the South,
or Eagle fans. Yeah, and look, good buddy of mine, Giants and Yankees fan.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are, because I still got a lot of. We were just up in New Jersey, hung out with our New Jersey friends, and we went down to my wife's friend's basement. It's a shrine to the Yankees. And I love the guy. I love him. I love his wife. Kids are great. They're great people. But he's a Yankees fan.
At least it's not a shrine to the Red Sox.
That's true. That's true. I've got very few Red Sox. Except here's the problem with that. My extended family, all Red Sox fans, all of them, because they live in Massachusetts. They live in Rhode Island. They're all from the area.
Oh.
It's. They want to talk Red Sox with me. And look, being an Orioles fan, it's like, what do you got nothing. You can't really come back with much because the Orioles, for the majority of their lifetime, of our lifetimes,
have been awful.
Yeah. We had like 2 years of bragging rights when they were in the playoffs.
When they win in 83?
No, we had like those couple years in the 2000s.
Yeah, no.
We had the Buck years.
Yeah, so they won a World Series in 83 with Cal Ripken. And then pretty much nothing.
There's a lot of nothing.
I mean, there was a couple. I mean, there was a year where I forget what year it was, where they were playing in the the Yankees in the playoffs, and that
is that the Albert Bell years.
It was Derek Jeter's rookie year. He hit the home run, and the kid reached out over the Yankee fan kid at Camden Yards, reached out over the wall. It was fan interference, but they didn't call it.
Right.
There's that one, and then we did have some good years with and they could have capitalized on it. But they didn't. Rather than signing starting pitching, they signed Chris Davis. And hey, I like Chris Davis.
Here's a great person. Great person.
There are a lot of great people.
But baseball
out there.
contract-wise, it was horrible.
But hey, they wanted that sexy home run hitter.
Listen, I'm gonna. Everyone says that Baltimore couldn't afford more people. I think that's crap.
Yeah.
This fan base, the Camden Yards for a long time was packed.
Yeah.
You're talking about 40,000 a night. When those years were good, they could have kept Nelson Cruz and Chris Davis, but Angelos cheaped out.
Oh yeah,
like you could have had both of them.
Yeah, there's no cap consideration in baseball,
right?
Like, look, they could have paid for all that.
Nelson Cruz is still mashing, by the way.
Oh yeah,
he got traded to Tampa. Just got traded to a contender by someone who wanted him.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, we could have had that guy if he would have paid up for 4 years. Which, by the way, he played beyond the 4 years we would have had him.
Oh yeah, and then they rather than keeping him, they signed, and they had Trumbo too.
That guy. He was just like Chris Davis.
Yeah, but at least
I'm going to tell you why though. Not because of their playing styles, because they both came to Baltimore, had one really good year, and cashed in on Angelos. Yeah. Like that was the. Anyone who had seen Chris Davis's career when he played with the Rangers and then he came here, he had like one great year with the Rangers. And then he was that 225 hitter with like 25, 30 home runs, but not much as far as production, not too many RBIs, like didn't hit in good spots. Came to the Orioles via that. I think it was via trade. Again, had that 1 year, cashed in, and they were expecting him to be that 289, 290 hitter with 40 home runs.
He struck out 1,000 times.
But he was only that player for 1 year.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Nelson Cruz was mashing 35, 40 home runs. He got hit with the PEDs, and they thought, he's not going to do it. He won't be able to do it again because he was on the Peds.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the guy's been mashing 30 home runs since he left here.
Yeah. So meanwhile, rather than signing him and maybe some starting pitching, they signed Chris Davis and then stuck with Ubaldo. Every time I watched him play, they lost. But I think that's every time everyone watched him. I don't think they ever won with him. But, hey, they threw a whole bunch of money at him because he had that one great year in Colorado.
Well, but any pitcher that has a good year in Colorado, you think can turn that into something anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
The problem is he went from the National League West to the American League East, which was, at the time, just a murderer's row.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a bad decision. Like, whoever was in the scouting department obviously did not do a lot of homework.
Yeah.
But again, from what I understand, Angelos cut costs in the scouting department and the international scouting department.
Yeah.
Like, the guy was working on bare bones budgets for the places that would return the biggest investment.
Yeah, when they're international money, they just wasted it. But
they always treated it away.
Yeah. But here's the thing. So baseball is not the reason you stick around here.
No, baseball's not. No. In fact, you're probably doing your children a benefit by moving somewhere else with any other baseball team.
Even like AAA, which is probably better than the Orioles at at some points. But the thing is though, like when you look at the houses that go up in this neighborhood, like I look at the prices of them, like I'd never pay that much for that house. My house is identical to that.
Yeah. Whoever's
paying that is a moron. I'm glad they are,
right?
But because that just drives my value up higher. But I don't know what it is here, because I'm like, yeah, I live here. It's a nice place. We had the schools are good, I guess. They're not perfect, but nothing is. So what is it? I mean, I guess it's commutable from Baltimore to if husband works in Baltimore, wife works in D.C., you can commute both ways.
This place was always about proximity.
Yeah.
The community, sure. For the most part, this area is known as a welcoming area.
Yeah.
I mean, there are places around here though that aren't.
Right.
In the immediate, in the immediate next door, like for example, the gripe on Severna Park.
Yeah.
Not the most welcoming place.
Right.
And then, of course, every place has its own kind of stereotypes. Like Glen Burnie and Pasadena get a little bit rednecky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Arnold was always kind of like the mixed medium, like a little bit of snob, a little bit of redneck, everybody mixed in.
Right. It wasn't the kind of
meshed,
Severna Park lockjaw.
Right. Yes.
But
and it wasn't also Annapolis has its own version of that.
Yeah.
Where old Annapolis versus new Annapolis.
Yep.
And a lot of old Annapolis moved south of Annapolis, but then you had and Edgewater was always kind of like the Pasadena.
Of South County, Pasadena.
Yes, exactly.
See, I'm not a big South County. It's rural and that, but South County that's Redskin territory.
Mm-hmm.
And here this is Ravens territory.
Yep.
And we're north.
Route 50 is the demarcation.
Yeah. But I would never live South County because they're all Redskin fans down there. I'm not moving down. No.
I did look at Davidsonville at one point.
It's funny because we looked when we bought the house here. We looked at Edgewater hard.
Yep.
That's all we I said no. I want to live in Edgewater.
Price points are the same. That's why. That's why people do it.
And then our real estate guy, our buyer's agent, was like, "Well, have you looked at Arnold?" I'm like, Where's that?" And we come up here. I think we probably looked at 10 houses in Edgewater. For every one we looked at up here, we ended up here. And because of what the market's done, and when I bought, we bought ours in 2009, so the market was in the toilet. Well, now it's come up a lot,
right?
And the thing is, for what we're paying, I can't rent a 2-bedroom apartment for what my mortgage is.
No, yeah.
So that's cool too. But then when you look at, I could go, and the thing is, I think it was just up to me, no other considerations. I'd be gone. I'd be out of here. Let me find a place that's more in line with my politics and with how I think life should be lived and all that, rather than. But we're still in a pretty, I don't want to say it's super conservative here, but it's still.
I think this area is more red than blue.
Yeah.
It's very solidly purple.
And that's not everything. I got friends that are super liberal progressives and across the gamut. It's just when you look at the things you want to do, I want to buy a rifle. I want to buy this. Oh, can't do that here. If I lived in Virginia, I could. Can't do it here. So, now, am I going to move so I can buy a certain type of gun? No, I'm not going to do that.
No.
But there's other things that come with that are also appealing to some and not appealing to others.
So let me ask you this. And you're starting to see it down in Loudoun County, Virginia, where I guess they were trying to implement some school practices down there.
Mm-hmm.
And the parents have gone nuts.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen some of they televised some of those school board meetings, and didn't matter white, black, Hispanic.
Yep.
A lot of people against what they're trying to put in those schools.
Oh yeah, and it actually made national news.
Right.
What was going on there?
So the only reason why I'm bringing this is because we were talking about politics, right? For the most part, the politics of an area don't affect the people.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say day-to-day life. It's not really affecting any of us.
Right.
Right. Could we go somewhere south having concealed carry? Sure.
Mm-hmm. Or
it's not
open or constitutional, whatever they call it.
Sure, but it's not making me move down there.
Right.
Right. Because it doesn't really affect my everyday life.
Yeah.
This is something that could affect your kid's life
Yeah.
if they decide to put something like that into effect in Anne Arundel County.
Yep.
I think something like that could force people to say, okay, this might be the thing that makes me move.
Yeah.
Because now you're talking about people's kids, right?
Well, I think it is affecting people. I mean, if you look at the net migration south, like Florida people are going. California, it's like an exodus from California.
Well, I mean, the census actually showed that.
Yeah.
Where California and New York both lost House seats.
Yeah.
And I think Texas and I think Florida got one. I don't know if it was Florida. I'm probably wrong on that. But some southern states or some other states that weren't blue got those seats.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to say it's just purely politics. I think a lot of it was economics, especially in California's case, because the taxes, and from what I understand, the business atmosphere there wasn't the best. And I think the COVID situation probably just expedited some people leaving.
Oh, well, yeah, and especially, like, they won't let go of it. I think L.A. County just locked everyone down again.
Yeah.
But, like, New York, yeah, because I think the taxes definitely come in, because when you're paying $15,000 a year in taxes, you move down, like you said earlier, you move to a place where the taxes are $5,000 a year. That's a $10,000 a year pay raise.
Even if you just go to New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Or even if you could just, let's say you moved from New York City to New Jersey and you were able to get a house instead of an apartment, and the house was, let's say, $400,000 versus your condo in New York City, which was like $600,000 to $700,000.
Yeah.
Even if the tax rate is the same, you're paying less in cash dollars for taxes because the value of the property is less.
Yep.
So you can move out. Let's say you moved out of like Parsippany, which is right off of 287. You're still within, spitting distance of New York City.
Yep.
You got a nice little piece of property for $400,000, $450,000.
Yeah.
A 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. Don't ask me how I know that.
Yeah.
I might have been looking while I was on vacation up there. Not that we're moving up that way, but
always pick up Zillow.
I always look wherever I am. I'm just checking to see what people are
Yeah.
paying for their houses up there. See what kind of life they're living compared to me.
But there are people that are commuting to New York from northeastern Pennsylvania.
Oh, Connecticut, all these places. Yeah,
there are people making that trip. But I think some other things also fall into it. When you look at an area, violent crime is way, way up. Yep. And if you look at, so you want to live in a place where you can feel relatively safe, and whether that violent crime is actually touching you or not, it's still there, and it still weighs in on people. And some say, you know what? I'm going to get out of here before this comes to me. I'm going to go to Florida where they don't support these policies that I think are causing this crime rate to increase. So they go and they move, again, someplace where you think that state's values are more in line with your own.
Right.
And now in this area, like, we're not seeing West Baltimore crime here. And I think if anyone left here because crime's out of control, there's not 130 people being shot on a weekend and
no, this is
some crazy
Chicago.
Yeah, like it's not like that. Now if you were to leave Baltimore because of that, okay,
I get that.
I can see you doing that.
We're going to Baltimore County from the city. I get that.
Yeah, people moving out, but here we don't have that. Thankfully.
I mean, you're always going to get the one guy that says, "Well, we don't have that yet."
Yeah.
I mean, look, do I think that's ever going to reach suburban areas? I don't think so. It's hard. It's like the old criminal mindset. It's harder to hit as many. Like, if you're going to do crime, it's harder to hit the more spread out areas just because you can do less crime in the same amount of area.
Yeah.
Than if you go to a more densely populated area, you got more. It's more opportunity to commit crime, right?
Yeah.
Not that I'm got the criminal mindset, not that I know, but I'm guessing. Like, if you're gonna do crime, you're gonna do it where you can do the most in the smallest amount of area.
Yeah.
It's gonna make it easier for you.
And a lot of people aren't. A lot of the criminals aren't going to range too far out of their comfort zone,
right?
Because they're looking. They're opportunists. They're looking for that opportunity. They know that area, so they know they can recognize the opportunity up there. if you take someone out of their environment and put them in a foreign one, then they're not going to understand the dynamics of wherever they're at. But the other thing is, I wonder what, and I'm sure, because I'm not a big real estate guy, so I have no idea, but what's driving the increase in real estate value?
Actually, I have a good answer for you. So, I've got an uncle who's in the mortgage business. Now, he doesn't sell mortgages. He does a lot. He does stuff on the back end, basically, to make sure that mortgages comply with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and that the company making the loan will be able to sell it to them.
Okay.
Essentially. And he's the whole business doing basically that. But anyway, he always gets a good idea of the volume of mortgages that are going through the system at any given time. And he can also see the qualification of people.
Yeah.
So, because I asked him, I said, "Is this going to be 2007 all over again?" And he said, "No." And he said, for the main reason of the people that are getting mortgages now are coming in with more money down. They're better qualified for the mortgage. And they have jobs that can sustain the mortgage.
Yeah, it's not like in
This is
07 where, hey, I want to buy an $800,000 house. I work 14 hours a week at Target.
Right.
And I drive an Uber.
Yeah, it's not the subprime lending.
Yeah.
But what happened was, and I think what happened from 2007, when you had the economy collapse, that was kind of a lot of people's oh shit moment.
Yeah.
And I equate it very similarly to what happened to like our grandparents' generation when the Great Depression happened.
Yeah.
And anyone who had grandparents from that generation or parents from that generation knows that is the generation that were very hesitant to use credit.
Yeah.
They were very hesitant to take out loans they couldn't repay. They saved money.
Yeah.
They saved a lot of money. A lot of them tried to they didn't live with outside of their means, right? And a lot of that stemmed from the Great Depression because they realized that the economy could collapse.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that was back in the 20s and 30s. So they kind of grew up in the, like my grandmother, I think she was born in 1919.
Yeah,
that's
about where mine were too.
So she kind of grew up in that kind of like her formative years were like the 30s for the most part, after she was like 10, 11 years old. So she was like growing up right after the Great Depression. And so that mindset stuck with them, with that whole generation. And I think similarly what happened was in 2007, for our generation, it was the Great Depression.
Yeah. And
we realized that, I better have some money in the savings account.
Yeah.
I can't just go spending $200, $300 on a pair of Nikes.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily one to say that consumer spending went down necessarily, but I definitely think that people were just more aware of buying things on credit cards. I mean, to the point where, from what I understand, outstanding credit, personal credit is at an all-time low right now. So people got more cash in the bank. They don't have outstanding credit to pay off. So what this has led to is now that generation is starting to say, okay, I feel comfortable enough now with my financial situation that I'm going to buy my house. Instead of buying it when they were in their 20s, they're now buying it in their 30s or even 40s. So I think that's part of it. But then on top of that, there's a lot of these companies, a lot of real estate investment trusts that see a hot rental market.
Okay.
So they can go, and what you hear is people, like personal folks like me or you, would be going up against an all cash offer. And so instead of having a 30-day close and having to wait to see if the loan gets approved, the homeowner could take $5,000 less, or even an asking offer, all cash, 15-day close. Okay, well, so essentially what happens is a lot of these companies, they buy up all that supply.
Yep.
So now there's few houses out there, and now that you got the supply shortage, you got personal home buyers going up against companies.
Yeah.
And now everyone's fighting for whatever's there. And we saw that in our own neighborhood, where not necessarily the companies that were coming to buy, but because of the supply shortage of houses on the market, houses aren't staying on the market for more than a week.
Mm-hmm.
You literally you put it on the market. You may have an open house on a Saturday.
Oh yeah.
You got 3 bids on a Monday, and some of those are for over. One person got $25,000 over asking.
Yeah.
In this neighborhood. So the next person put the house up for, I think it was like $25,000 over what they got.
Yeah.
Sold in 5 days.
Yep.
So it's like, what? Now there's a house that just got put up for sale for $20,000 over what that person got.
Mm-hmm.
Until someone stops paying it, though, the prices are just going to keep going up. But again, you've got those well-qualified buyers. So everyone's wondering, look, where is this bubble going to pop?
Yeah.
I don't think the bubble pops necessarily in the fact that you see a lot of foreclosures. I think what ends up happening is you get, eventually people will have bought their house. I don't think there's an infinite number of buyers out there.
Yeah, no, and I
think the demand will kind of wane a little bit.
Yeah, rather than being red hot, it'll cool down. Yeah. I know that, and I'm not sure if this area is affected by it, but a lot of people. So my in-laws are from, they're up in Long Island, and the market is just screaming up there because a lot of people that were stuck in the city for COVID.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to be quarantined, it's a lot nicer to be quarantined in a 3-bedroom house with a yard than it is to be quarantined in a studio apartment in Manhattan. So I think a lot of people are like, and I think that because for the longest time, the big McMansions and all that stuff, that was, the value of those things was going down. Well, then COVID hits, everyone's locked down. Well, now it's starting to turn around. People want this, and I also think like those people that were young that wanted to live in a city, they realized, well, living in a city is great when you're in your 20s and you don't have any kids. But then once you have kids, like, okay, maybe you have a baby in the city. That's like, but eventually you're going to want. Do you want to send your kids to DC public schools? Do you want to send your kids to Baltimore City schools? Move out to the suburbs, and that's eventually what.
Yeah.
And that's affecting New York. I'm not sure if it's happening here or not.
I think New York City, New York City schools don't have the horrible reputation that Baltimore City schools do. I think that's a different animal. I also think that New York City didn't help themselves with their reaction to COVID.
Yeah.
I don't think people don't think COVID is necessarily over because you keep getting the Delta variant. There's a Lambda variant.
Yeah. It's going to be a bunch of fraternities out there of COVIDs.
Well, sure.
Doing keg stands.
And then, you said that the masks are coming back to L.A.
Yeah.
And some of these other areas, when we were up in New Jersey, we heard they were talking about doing another mask mandate. So I think what people are thinking is, what if New York City shuts down restaurants again?
Yeah.
Well, they weren't shutting them down in Long Island.
Right.
In the suburbs. Like, for the most part, even here, locally, we could get takeout from almost any restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
So you could still get food, groceries. They didn't... If you lived in New York City, public transportation was the way you got around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would imagine they probably shut down some of that or made it really, really restrictive.
Yep.
So if I can leave New York City and maybe not have as strict of a, I don't want to call it a lockdown, but less strict rules with how they deal with COVID. And I think a lot of people were surprised that places like Texas and Florida, they didn't have those restrictive lockdowns or restrictions last year when you had a full public that was unvaccinated. Now that there's vaccinations, there's different numbers coming out. But last year when there were no vaccination, no one was vaccinated, everything was equal. Mm-hmm. The states that stayed open had, if you do COVID deaths as a percentage of population, Florida and Texas actually had better numbers than California, New Jersey, and New York, which had more restrictive measures put in place. And that's just by using it. Look, I understand some people don't really believe some of the data that was out there, but just by using the data that was out there, if you took the number of deaths divided by the population of the state, those states did better than the other ones, than the ones that had the more restrictions. So if I'm sitting here going, look, I lived in New York City. I'm a waitress, having a hard time making ends meet.
Yeah.
In New York City, and oh, by the way, when this happened, they shut down the restaurants, and I couldn't go to work. Well, all right, I can go to suburban New Jersey, where it wasn't that, where the restrictions weren't as strict there.
Yeah.
Or I can go south, or I can go to North Carolina. Where they had less restrictions, or South Carolina.
Yeah.
And
there wasn't
maybe it's time for me to leave this situation.
Yeah, and I think like if you're thinking about look at L.A. County with their new mask mandate. That's one party rule there, and I don't know if there's the political will to do it. Now, in New York, it's one party there as well, and I don't know if here, even though Maryland is pretty much is pretty blue, but there's some. It's more moderate than certainly L.A. County or. Well,
you got a red governor.
Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong; he's a very middle of the road red governor.
Yeah,
but he's still a red governor.
But is there the political will? And I think some of these politicians are like, look, my constituents are tired of this.
Yes.
And if I go and try to do this again, I'm signing my own death warrant. Now, you're not signing your own death warrant in L.A. County because I think a lot of people are on board with it.
Right.
For whatever reason, I think people like it, but. New York is probably, there's probably some of this similar, it gets into a lot of virtue signaling, and it's a conversation for another day. But here, I don't think there is that political will to do it, because they understand that if they were to do something like that, they would be committing career suicide.
Well, I think you can see where they're covering their flank.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever they talk about the COVID numbers increasing, they always say it's with the unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Now, Maryland has one of the highest vaccination rates in the country. I think we're at 75% of people eligible for the vaccine. So it doesn't include kids, but they're saying we're at 75%, which is actually considered herd immunity.
Yeah.
Even though the numbers, when they talk about the numbers in the hospital going up, there's always a line in there that say, well, a majority of it is, or a large portion of it is unvaccinated people.
Yeah.
Like now it's the vaccine shaming. Side of things, right? Yeah. So basically saying, hey, you got the vaccine, you're fine, you're doing great, good for you. I also think that's their way of saying we don't need to shut everything down this time.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a Delta variant. Yes, there might be a Lambda variant, but we don't need to shut everything down because all the hospital check-ins and the deaths are all coming from unvaccinated people, not from vaccinated people. Vaccinated people are just fine.
Yeah.
So we're not going to shut down, but we are going to say everyone should get vaccinated, and now vaccinate your kids.
Yeah,
because the vaccine will save your kids.
Right.
So I think that's an angle they're going to start playing at, and look, could be true, right? I think the vaccine's for the most part proven safe at this point.
Yeah, I got one. I got one early.
Everyone we know got one.
Yeah, I did mine in February. So.
Yeah. I think we got vaccinated really close together.
Yeah, and for me, it was like, I didn't have to wait in line. It was free. Now, if I had showed up and there was a long line, I would have left. Not because I'm an anti-vaxxer thing. I just don't like waiting in lines. So I would have rolled out.
I think a lot of people think that the people not getting the vax are anti-vaxxers. I don't think that's I think don't get me wrong. I think that contingent's out there.
Oh, there is. Yeah.
But I don't think that's a majority of the reason why people are getting it. I think people don't trust the government.
Yeah. And yeah. And some people think, well, it was rushed through. It takes years for a vaccine. And I can appreciate all those positions. For me, I was like, it's free. Well, let's roll. Like
it was
whatever.
It was so politicized though. Like running up until the presidential election, I believe the current vice president Kamala Harris said that she would never take the vaccine. Because it was rushed through by President Trump.
Right, like Donald Trump was in there cooking the vaccine up.
He researched.
Mr. Covfefe himself was in there mixing, DNA and rDNA and all this stuff Yeah, Donald Trump was doing that.
Him and Beaker
yeah.
from the Muppets
Right.
were in there.
Maybe the Swedish chef was there. But
yeah, before the election though, she was like, I wouldn't get this.
Oh yeah, well,
but then as soon as the election happened, everyone should get it. Everyone's got to get it.
And that's what
I think that flip flop of the messaging.
Yeah,
it just really messed with a lot.
It did a lot of damage. Cuomo said the same thing, that he would never get a vaccine that was done by Donald Trump. Again, I don't think that Donald Trump was in there.
He's not mixing the beakers. He's not doing the lab work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like doing DNA sequencing.
Trust me, if he was, I'd be the last person in line for that vaccine.
Yeah,
like, nah, bro, I'm good. I'm good, Don. Thank you. No, I'm passing.
It's the best vaccine ever.
Right.
It's no one's ever seen anything like it. You're probably right about that one.
I saw Harry Potter. I put a lock of my hair into the the vaccine, and now it's great for everybody. No, Don, thanks. I'm good, buddy.
Yeah, I'll pass. Hard pass.
Go to that golf course, though. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, but yeah, I think they definitely did a lot of damage, and I think that still lingers.
Oh yeah,
and you can't do that flip flop. I think they're defund the police thing. They're trying to walk away from that. They're really trying to. They're walk saying back on that.
They're now saying they never said that.
Right. Oh, they're also saying that it's the Republicans that did it too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is funny.
Were you not there?
Right.
Like, did you? It's like when I think it was like Maxine Waters said she wasn't inciting violence before the George Floyd verdict was, and then like they played it back for her.
Yeah.
Like they played the audio of her. I never said that.
Yeah.
No, we got you on video. Like, you can't dispute the
what
video.
Was that Shaggy song? Wasn't me.
Right.
Caught me bagging in the corner.
I swear to God,
me.
dude. They're like the defense of all of this is like, it wasn't me.
Yeah. Nope.
What do you mean it wasn't?
Don't know who did
Here's
that.
the video, the audio, more video. Yeah. Like you said it 3 times.
A notarized statement,
right,
from you.
Wasn't me.
But yeah, they're trying to walk back. Like, hey, look, if you're to blame libertarians for defunding police, okay,
right.
I could probably see that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not your Law and Order types.
No, it's such a strange defense.
Yeah,
like, wasn't us. It was those guys.
But no one's calling them out on it. No one's calling them out
because the media, the mainstream media. I shouldn't say mainstream. The media outlets. And we talked about this. You're not going to piss off the people that tune into you.
Yeah.
So there's no advantage to telling the truth. There's advantage to telling the story you've been telling.
Right.
Because those are the people that listen to you. Now, with that being said, nobody's listening to that either.
Right.
Everyone is after the election. Everyone tune out because for the most part, in day-to-day lives, none of it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter at all. Yeah, I don't know. But I definitely think that people leave, think about where they're going because of those reasons. I think they think, oh, this is a red state, I'm going there. I'm moving to a red state.
Yeah.
And, the thing is, though, the more people that move to the red state from the blue state, do they then go and vote for the same people that made them leave the blue state in the first place?
Well, the definition of stupidity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something different.
Yeah. Yeah, so they go and, like, oh, I'm tired of Maryland's politics and I'm tired of this. I'm going to move to North Carolina. And then you get down there and you're like, this guy reminds me of my old senator from Maryland. I'm going to vote for him. And next thing you know, you're just turning it into what you left. So.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, unfortunately, we won't know the full breadth of the consequences of all this for 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Right. And I think some of those states, there's no shot they turn because I think that certain political parties think that voting blocks are always going to vote for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this since the last election, ever since Barack Obama won the first time, the common conception is that black voters always vote Democrat, right? And for the most part, I mean, I think it was like 97% did. But since Barack Obama's first term, every election after that, the percentage of black voters to vote Republican has increased in each of the 3 elections.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're losing your voter base a little bit. And if you think that Hispanics and Latinos are going to vote for you just because you think that they're the pro-Democrat or the pro-immigration choice, I got bad news for them.
Yeah.
Because socially, a lot of these Latino and Hispanic families, they're very religious.
Mm-hmm.
They're very much on the social spectrum in the Republicans. I don't think they're expanding their base. And you and I talked about this before. People like us, we vote for whoever is going to let us think for ourselves, not who's going to tell us what to think all the time. Mm-hmm. And, I think it was 8 to 10 years ago, that was a Republican Party. Yeah. That was a Tea Party.
Yeah.
If you don't believe this, you're not a patriot.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm not that then, and I'm going to vote for the blue side.
Yeah.
And then the blue side said, well, if you don't believe this, you're not Democrat enough.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not Democrat. Then
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for the red side.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in that middle that think like that, think like us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
the
people that they think are going to vote for him might not vote for him anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ronald Reagan said that Latinos or Hispanic were Republicans. They just didn't know it yet.
Right.
And but that I think when you take advantage of certain blocks of voters and just expect them to just march in lockstep with you,
right,
that you're going to be fine. Now in this state, it's so gerrymandered that they've essentially just picked their voters.
They definitely have.
If you look at the districts, like where we are right now,
was it the condor or the pelican or the pterodactyl? I think is what we're in.
This thing. So I forget the district that we're in, but it goes into Oxon Hill. So do you that's who elects our congressperson is Oxon Hill,
right?
Not us. Now, if you go down College Parkway to down past down near Revel Downs, that is a different district that runs into Montgomery County. So what they've done is they've gone and they've picked their own. The politicians have picked their voters. Right. If you look at the crazy, it's one of the worst gerrymandered districts in the country. It runs up through Baltimore City. It's got now they packed all the Republican votes onto the Eastern Shore
and out west.
Yeah. So but what they did with out west is they that used to be Roscoe Bartlett's seat.
Yeah. And
what they did is they redrew that one so that it takes a big chunk of Montgomery County that washes out all of Western Maryland.
Right.
So now you've only got one Republican or one red seat, which is Andy Harris's on the Eastern Shore, but that goes from Carroll County to Ocean City.
Right.
Now you can't tell me that the people in Carroll County have the same interests that those in Ocean City do. Right. It's completely different. It might as well be. It's completely different parts of the state, completely different ways of life between, northern rural Maryland and the Eastern Shore.
Right. Beach life.
Yeah.
Beach life in the mountains.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. It's pretty much like, you got the real tree camo up there in Carroll County for the deer hunters, and then you got the Ducks Unlimited Salt Life stickers on the Eastern Shore. Yeah. Completely different, but they packed all those votes in there. So now Governor Hogan tried to redraw those lines. He wanted to do it was a bipartisan redistricting committee.
Didn't he sue? It was part of wasn't it part of a Supreme Court case?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the outcome of it, though.
Yeah, me neither. And this is kind of something that just kind of popped in my head. Gerrymandering could be an episode in and of itself.
That is definitely a different podcast.
Because gerrymandering to me is, and both sides do it. I'm not going to go and accuse just the Democrats. If you go,
it depends which state you're in.
Yeah, yeah. When you get into they call it packing or cracking, and
sure.
There's a whole bunch of different tactics they use to either break apart districts or pack them into other ones. So we're going to lose that seat, but we're going to have these other 8.
Right.
So we're good. And really no one's being represented there. So.
Yeah. And I guess to the original point, does any of this cause anyone in the 50 corridor? Because, the 50 corridor is the people that are that were commuting to D.C. for the most part, in Montgomery County, Silver Spring, Rockville, out there, and even I guess to the south, like a lot of PG County, even Calvert County, people are commuting into D.C.
Oh yeah.
As the federal government, though, as one of the major employers for the area, goes more telework and says, "Okay, you don't got to come in the office no more." Do people in this state decide to just say, "I'm out of here"?
Yeah.
And that's the question. Is like, at what point, especially because in 2007, in 2008, 2009, people couldn't leave.
Yeah.
Because they were underwater on their mortgages.
Yeah.
Right? The foreclosures and the short sales tanked values. Well, we got the opposite now.
Yeah.
People can move. And home values are up. So I can sell my house, make a profit, and I don't have to deal with the traffic here. Maybe the politics aren't my own.
Yeah.
Maybe this state's just not for me anymore.
Yeah. And the thing is, even if you had to go into an office, because one of the neighbors, he has to go into the office. I think they want him to go in once a week. So if you had to go in once a week, right? What is your drive limit for once a week?
So I got a guy that I worked with. He eventually decided when he was doing so it was one day every other week, so a little bit different. He moved down to Richmond.
Yeah.
Commuted to D.C. He came up to D.C., stayed the night in the hotel, came up, did his job that next day, drove back down to Richmond once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And he's like, the money I save on my mortgage by not living in this area and by living in Richmond, that one night in a hotel, because he could stay in like Lorton area, like a little bit further south, not in D.C.
Yep.
Made the hour commute, or you take the train, the VRE in, take the VRE back out, jump in his car, head home.
Yeah. I played hockey with a kid whose dad worked in Manhattan and stayed up there for the week and then would come home on the weekends. Now, he had to be now this was in the mid-90s. So he had to go there. And he would do that once, drive back, spend the weekends with his family, then.
I had a boss that did that.
Yeah.
Except he lived up in Bucks County. So he drove to the Perryville MARC station.
Yep.
Parked his car there. Took the train in. Stayed at some cheap hotel for the week. Went back up Thursday night.
Yeah.
Took Fridays off.
Yeah. Now, if you had to be in, if you had to be in somewhere once a week or once every other week, I mean, at that point, look at it like, okay, well, do I, is a 6-hour drive, go up, spend the night, hit the office during the day, and then drive back? Is a 6-hour drive too much? I'd do it.
Different strokes for different folks at that point. But I mean, look, even if you had to stay in the hotel one night, what are you, $100 hotel?
Yeah. Or do you fly in? I worked with a guy whose family lived in, I forget where it was. It was like a considerable, like he had to fly there, but so he would get off of work on his last day, fly home, hang out at home, and then right before work he'd fly back. Yeah. So in that sort of commute. But again, he was doing that once a week. If you only had to be in the office one day, I mean, you have to then weigh, okay, what's the cost of this airfare? What's the cost of that? And think, well, heck, if I can just only have to do it one day, that's my office day.
Right.
Well, then, you can range a lot further than that because you're doing everything else at home. And I think even the office days are probably going to start. Like you have experience with that. Like, the fact that what's the difference whether I Zoom in or call in or handle everything via email and phone calls? Like,
yeah, we've already gotten the indication that we're probably not heading back in the office.
Yeah.
The indication is that going in the office is going to be the rarity.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to soften the blow because we've got an aging workforce that was really against telework.
Yeah.
I think COVID kind of forced it on them to let them. It was kind of like it was forced on them, and they kind of realized it'd be okay.
Yeah.
But look, I would we would love to hear what you guys think. Other people in the local area. Are you looking to cash in on your home equity and moving out of state or a less expensive part of the state? Are you moving south? Are you moving north? Where are you going? Is your job going to let you telework full time even after this COVID mess is over? What's your situation? We appreciate you listening to us. Please like, subscribe, comment, share to this podcast or video if you're watching on YouTube. And we will see you next time.